Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the EVN Disrupt podcast. My name is Khachatryan. I'm the editor of the tech section here at EVN Report. Today, my guest is Taron Khachatryan. Taron is an engineer and is involved in the virtual reality space. He has a company called Nox Labs, which he is the CEO and founder of. Taron Jan, thank you so much for joining us today.
Nijdajan, thanks for having me. It's an awesome opportunity.
Thank you for being here. Taron, I want to start with a little bit of your background. Tell us about how you got started in the VR space.
Totally by accident. It was around 2014, 3 years before I graduated with like electrical engineering and math degree. Wasn't doing anything in the field. And I was sitting down, I was watching the Google Developers Conference. And they passed out, I don't know if people remember, do you remember the Google Cardboard?
Yeah.
So they passed it out as a gift to their developers.
Mm-hmm. Explain what the Google Cardboard is for our listeners who might not know.
Yeah, sure. So Google Cardboard it's kind of like a gateway drug to virtual reality.
Okay.
It's like a very affordable way to experience virtual reality. So it's basically a cardboard folded into a form like a box with lenses on it, and like something to interact with the phone screen. The phone goes inside, and on the phone there's an application running where it uses like the phone's gyroscope and accelerometer to turn the direction. Wherever you turn your head, the image shifts that way.
Right.
And the image is split from the middle. So with the lenses, you get a thing like a VR effect.
Right. What year was this?
2014.
Okay.
So they did it as a like fun thing to give out to their developers, and they also like open sourced the design, the hardware. It's not like it's cardboard hardware.
Right.
But it was very nicely designed. Like you could actually get immersive VR.
Mm-hmm.
So this was about probably like Oculus was just coming to the market. So I was watching the conference, and then I saw that they open sourced the design. And they were like saying like, oh, you can make it out of a pizza box and stuff, but really you couldn't. Like you had to cut it professionally, like get the lenses, get like magnets, So I'm like, let me just see if I can sell these.
Mm-hmm.
So I created Nox Labs, just a landing page.
Mm-hmm.
I spent like $12, and then said you can pre-order here, like those days, like keywords. And then like 500 people pre-ordered. And I'm like, oh.
This was right after the conference?
Yeah, like that same day.
Yeah. So the interest was really
everyone was searching Google Cardboard. It was like Google's page. There was another like upstart that was doing something similar, and then it was us.
That's really smart.
It was like fun. And then I'm like, shit, like I gotta learn how to cut cardboard. Like I'm like, I did engineering, like now like I'm like gonna be a cardboard cutter. Like and like Nox, it was like random name, like just labs. I've always liked labs.
Yeah.
Like there's a cartoon called Dexter's Laboratory. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I like making things. So like I want to have my own lab.
Yeah.
And Nox, it was just like I was sitting at a Barnes and Noble, and there was a picture of a book, The Iliad, and it was translated by Bernard Knox. Like Knox sounded cool.
That's a great story.
Yeah. So I spent like $12 starting it. And then Google like had a 3-person VR team at the time. They were just getting into VR too. And then they reached out. They're like, hey, can you manufacture for us too? I'm like, sure, it's your product. You guys like made it. Like,
so Google reached out to you after you just had the landing page, saying, "Could you manufacture for us?"
Yeah. It wasn't right after, like maybe like a month after. I'm like, yeah, sure. Like, so and then that like launched, like, and we ended up like manufacturing like probably 3.5-4 million of them.
4 million of the Google Cardboard.
Yeah, so like 1/5 of the whole world's supply was made by like Armenian hands in Glendale.
Very cool.
Kerry managing the production. So
it's a real startup.
Yeah, it was cool.
Yeah. So those sales, over what period of time was it?
So from 2014 to 2017.
Yeah.
It was about those were about like we did 3 million then, and then like some after effects after that, aftershocks.
Yeah.
And then we got into like something else there too. So we would have, it was like an innovative way to do like branding, brand advertisement, like new way of doing ads. So instead of like building out ads that weren't playable, now they were using this cardboard. They would ask us, hey, can you brand it? Can you put our logo on it?
Oh, okay.
So we'd say, sure, we can do it. And then Simpsons reached out, like New York Times,
Wow.
like United Airlines, Coors Light, bunch of like, and they would ask like, hey, can you make us a VR app as well? So I was like, sure, we'll make it.
So you got into software as well?
Yeah. So we opened the team in Armenia and started making VR apps as well, mobile based. And then from there, we realized that what we've made is actually a really cool platform, like a cool library. At that time, there was, and still now, it's like making VR apps, you have to know 3D. So we, in Armenia, we had done it in a way where it was written in JavaScript.
Okay.
So any web developer could use this to make VR apps. So we birthed another startup from there called Rodan, which enabled any VR any like front-end developer just doing like website design to be able to build cross-platform VR apps.
Using JavaScript?
Yeah.
So it was a JavaScript framework?
Yeah.
So what happened with that startup?
So that we named it Rodan because they're like Rodan was a sculptor, and in VR you sculpt. So that was the first web-based VR app builder. What was really innovative about it is that it was web-based, but with a single click you could generate native applications for each headset.
Yeah.
For each different kinds of headset, like Oculus, HTC, phone.
Yeah.
So this would be installed natively, and you could change your application from the web, and it would update everywhere. So it was a nice like web to VR native interplay.
Yeah.
So we applied to Techstars with it. It's an accelerator. Yeah. We got in to Techstars Boulder. So we formed a whole, grew the team there, went to Techstars, raised very, very little money. At that time it wasn't little. It was like 100K from Techstars and 100K from another investor, and put in another probably 100K from Knox Labs.
Yeah.
We couldn't get product market fit. It was way too early for this. There was no, there weren't that many VR developers. There were.
This is 2017?
2017.
Okay.
Yeah. And at the time we were speaking with Amazon as well, and they took and they copied the product. Same, but they ended up making the same mistakes as we did. Complete same mistakes. I could have told them not to do that,
What were some of the mistakes?
So one, going very deep into the JavaScript aspect and taking a gambling on web-based VR. It just didn't provide, in retrospect, I wouldn't have done web-based VR. It didn't, or I would have taken one aspect, just one type of specific creation, or asset management, right? Maybe making Amazon, AWS for VR, or S3 for VR, for just hosting VR objects. We were trying to do everything, we was a editor, library, it was a whole platform. So I wouldn't bank on that, because web-based VR wasn't powerful enough at the time, and in the early days of VR, you need really good applications, and you get that by going native. Yeah. So what I would have done is picked one. If we were doing web-based, just pick one very small niche of that. There's a good successful startup doing that called Echo 3D. They just allow you to host your 3D objects on the platform, and then place those 3D objects in your native application in VR, and then replace them as you see fit. If someone is interacting with this red chair more than with this yellow chair, this red chair is doing good. Yeah. So you can update that red chair from the web, change the file, make it better. That's a good use of web VR.
Is the reason why WebVR is still too early because hardware, specifically like phones, are just not powerful enough to handle VR in the web?
No, so phones will never be. Headsets, there aren't standards. There are no good standards yet. Like, there are no good browsers
Specifically for VR.
for VR. Like, it's everything is in. It's still an extension of like current paradigms,
Yeah.
both hardware and like UI.
Yeah.
So like browsers in VR are still window based. Like it's
Right.
not doesn't make sense.
You can't have a window in VR.
Yeah,
Yes,
like it's just like that's one of the things that has to be
Yeah.
solved. You know, there were some startups that were trying to do new types of browser. Like Mozilla tried to do it too, but it's just not there yet. And you can't do too powerful things. Like you can do like like not too many interactions.
What do you mean by that?
So, like in VR, it's very interactive, right?
Mhm.
Like you grab this,
okay.
you do that, you do this, you do that. With web-based VR applications, you can't do like too many interactions with objects.
Yeah.
Like you can't have a really good game, for example.
Right. Okay. Before we dive deeper into that, let's take a sort of an inventory of where we're at with virtual reality, and now it's often referred to as the metaverse. So last year, I think when Facebook changed their name to Meta, I think people started thinking that okay, it's now the age of metaverse and virtual reality is really upon us now, and a lot of people got really excited about what investment opportunities there are in the space. So where are we at right now with virtual reality? What do we have now?
So now we have good hardware. We're getting to like really good hardware. And part of that is like the work that Meta has been doing. Even though innately there's a like negativity associated with anything Facebook.
Right.
The hardware side, they have just been brute forcing it, and they've been doing a lot of like innovative work there.
And that's in part thanks to their acquisition of Oculus many years back.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that was a really like visionary move by Mark. He's like the biggest advocate of VR now. Like their reasons might be different than like building VR because VR is great and like helps us communicate more. But whatever their reason is, he's been pushing.
It's been a positive for.
I think so. There wouldn't have been. It's like he's forcing open a dam. Otherwise, it would have been like very slow. So I'm glad they're. So hardware is there.
Okay.
Because they brought down the price to $300, and it's standalone, meaning that you don't need to connect it to a PC to run games or to run anything.
And when we talk about hardware, are we just talking about headsets or things that allow you to interact with the?
Just headset. That's the first step. Content-wise, it's getting there. It's really good. I would say like there's good games that are made specifically for VR. So games is going to be the first
area.
Yeah, it's and then you get into like productivity. There's some like good movement there too.
Like meeting rooms and stuff.
Meeting rooms, yeah.
What's an example of a good VR game?
My favorite is In Debt Unchained.
Mm-hmm.
It's bow and arrow.
Okay.
Like so you're just in like medieval times.
Yeah.
And like playing bow and arrow on a joystick is 10 times worse than just like taking your hands and like
right. It's far less natural than being able to actually do the motion of a bow and arrow. Yeah.
That's a really, really good game for me. Like that, like I could play like for like 2-3 hours a day.
Do you think VR will mature to the point where just gaming is done in virtual reality? As in that becomes the new console platform. Instead of Xboxes and PlayStations, we just have.
I still like Xbox and PlayStation. Yeah. I don't know if like my mind has seen that,
right,
and is attached to it.
We're biased to think that it's
like maybe someone that's like it's a new mind that just jumps into VR first gaming.
Right.
That they will. I don't know, because there are really powerful games if like you run the game off the PC's graphics card and connect the headset to it. Like Half-Life Alyx is really immersive, really powerful. I still think it's going to be a divide
Okay, so
yeah.
there'll be a VR gaming world, and there'll be a console and
I think
PC
so.
gaming
Yeah.
world.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay. What about the other applications other than gaming? What's really working right now?
There's a company called Immerse. They're also another Techstars company. Like in productivity, they're doing really good. So, like, here's a cool application, right? Where it's something that you couldn't do without a VR headset. Like Zoom meetings, you kind of can do. Like it's in Zoom meetings, right? In VR, you get like a meeting room. But like what Immerse did is like put on your headset, connect it to your laptop.
Yeah.
Take your desktop there, and then get 5 additional screens.
Okay.
So imagine like you don't need to have like physical extra screens.
I see. Okay.
And that's cool.
Yeah.
Like I love working with multiple screens, right, in real life. But
yeah.
you might not have the money for that. You might not
It's
have the
super
space.
expensive.
Yeah.
So if I understand correctly, so you put the headset on, you plug in the headset to your computer.
You don't even need to plug it in, like on the same Wi-Fi network.
Okay.
Yeah.
So on the Wi-Fi network that the computer and the headset are connected to, when you in the virtual environment, you have access to several screens that the work that you would do on your computer is shown on those screens.
Yeah. So you see your one screen.
Yeah. Now you have 5.
Yeah. Now you have 5, and now they've improved it to the point where you can like see your physical keyboard with like pass-through camera.
Yeah.
You can like do video calls from there to outside.
Yeah.
So it's been really good.
Yeah. What's the adoption been like for these systems so far?
There's been, I think, 15 million headsets sold so far. I think that's just Oculus. If you add like HTC and stuff, it's probably around like 55 million.
Okay.
So this Christmas it was the hottest gift. So by 2025 or 2, you're gonna see VR headsets being as much as like half of all iPhone sales.
Wow.
So it's going to pick up insanely. It is, and like we see it from our end too. Like now, Knox Labs is we changed this. It's a VR marketplace, like everything VR marketplace. So I'm getting like a first-hand view at like
what the data looks like of sales and stuff. Yeah. So for these 55 million units that have been sold globally, is it mostly at this point purchased just for games?
Yeah.
The productivity side is still very early.
It's early, but it's picking up.
Yeah.
Like we made an application too early in COVID called Knock Knock. It was meeting rooms, and we wanted to use this with companies that have remote teams, and we would like send the headsets for free and have them use it to have their like meetings there. What we noticed is like there's still like 2 levels of barrier of entry, right? Like it's 1, they have to learn how to use the hardware. Right. 2, they have to use this new software to do meetings there. So it was like high excitement, drop off. High excitement, drop off. So, but maybe we didn't do it good. You know, there are some companies like Immerse with their approach, and then like they're creating meeting rooms around it. Yeah. There's people that spend like 30, 40 hours like a week in there. They do their work there.
Really? There are people who spend 30 hours in VR a week?
Yeah.
Like doing their work in there?
There's this guy with like Speak that he uses Knock Knock as well. Yeah. He's always making his call from VR. Like whenever I do a Zoom call with him, I just see his avatar inside thing. Like, so there are some power users. Yeah. Now we're seeing like productivity become more and more, but it's still like probably like around 5%, 10% max
of the use cases of VR today. Yeah. Where do you think that space, specifically the productivity space, is going for VR?
Here's the thing. I think there's 2. That's a really good question.
Because like, let me just maybe set up a little bit of context. So I think it was earlier this year, or maybe towards the end of last year, Mark Zuckerberg put out this video of him and some of his other colleagues at Meta or Facebook having a full meeting with their avatars in VR. And he sort of laid it out as this is sort of the roadmap of this is where the company is going, this is where the space, the VR and meta space in general is going. And in 10 years or whenever the time comes, instead of hopping on Zoom or going into, I don't know, a boardroom to have a meeting, we're all just going to put on our headsets and we're going to sit around a digital table in the virtual world and have a meeting just as we would have anywhere else. Do you think that's sort of the direction that the productivity space for VR is going?
He used a good phrase there. We should be teleporting, not transporting.
Right.
Yes and no.
Okay.
I'm in VR, but I run one meeting a week in VR. Or maybe 2 meetings a week in VR. It's not there yet.
Yeah.
It's going there. I don't know. I don't see it totally replacing it. Honestly, when we get, I think augmented can replace it.
Right.
Augmented reality. But then there's a core problem here. Problem is VR, AR, mixed reality and stuff. It's not its own medium yet. It's not when the iPhone came, right? It was designed as a mobility device first, then a phone layer on top, built on top of it, right? Before that we had BlackBerry and Windows phones and stuff. That was basically the laptop taken, crammed into a smaller form.
Right.
Same keyboard, crammed and put in your pocket. It wasn't designed as a new paradigm shift. It wasn't iPhone caused that paradigm shift where now both the hardware and forcing the apps to be mobility first, then
its own operating system that was designed just for mobile use.
Yeah. And then with Tesla, right?
Yeah.
Before Tesla we had Prius and hybrid cars and stuff. They were just hybrids, right? They were extensions of the current paradigm. They were just taking the car, made it a little different, a little better. But better is due to the perspective. But Tesla came, is electric medium first, car layer on top.
Right.
It's not a car first.
Right.
So in VR, we have that, we're at that hybrid stage right now, where the hardware is still, even though it's you're wearing it, it still utilizes the paradigms of mobile and PC. And the UI in extension with that is also that. Is what we're talking about, the browsers and stuff.
Yeah.
It's the design, philosophy is still flat screen based. It's going to take some time when we have VR, AR that's built specifically as its own medium. When we see that happening, then we will see a shift in using this as a thing. I don't think we're going to see that in the next 5 years. First step is going to come when pure AR is built, pure augmented reality is built, at least from the AR side, where it's not just dumb objects thrown on the floor, even with your phone, right? It's there's spatial awareness, but it's not real spatial awareness. It's not coming from the perspective of your eyes. Your camera does not live next to your eyes.
Right.
So computation is not done from your eyes perspective.
Right.
So when we have computation that's done from you have sensors near your eyes,
like a lens.
Yeah, lens or camera or glasses, right? Where computation is done from it's thrown onto the world how your eyes throw it on.
It's a more natural perspective than wearing goggles or a headset or seeing something through your phone.
So information output is data is laid on the world.
Okay.
From the perspective of your eyes. It's taken in from there. So when you have that, you're going to have a new type of paradigm.
So if I'm understanding you correctly, the VR paradigm, so building from a VR first perspective, in the same way that Apple built the iPhone from a mobile first perspective, would be to get your perception of that virtual or augmented reality to be from the level of your eyes, your natural form of vision.
Yeah,
right?
sound as well. The computation, that device has to live there. Your phone lives in your pocket.
Right.
You take it out, you use the camera, and so that camera is not a natural extension of you.
Right.
It's completely like living in somewhere else. I think when that happens, then we'll see a shift and like localization of its own paradigm.
Right. So you spoke a little bit about augmented reality. I remember 5-6 years ago, there was a lot of talk of, it's not VR, that there's a battle between VR versus AR. And in the long term, AR is going to win out because AR is more natural. And for our listeners, we should just explain what augmented reality is. So augmented reality, for instance, when you take out your phone and you use an application such as, I think Pokemon Go is probably the one that really popularized it. You would point your camera to the real world. You would see something that is not there. So in the case of Pokemon Go, these Pokemons, and then you would throw a Pokeball at it and you would capture it. So there was this conversation about there's a sort of a battle between VR and AR, and one of these is going to win out. And a lot of people were arguing that because AR uses the natural world much more, augmented reality uses the natural world a lot more, and you don't have to wear these headsets, it'll ultimately beat VR out. But now I feel like the conversation has sort of moved to this thing called mixed reality, which I guess is a sort of a morphing of the virtual reality world and the augmented reality world. Is that conversation still happening in the field, or do you think, or where is that the conversation out now?
I think on surface level, that conversation is still there, VR, AR, and this, that, but I think they're just all part of the same, like, Apple.
Same world.
Yeah, same. It's like, it's just different aspects of the same, like, new stack. So, like, mixed reality, where you can both like throw objects onto the world and see it through a lens. Also walk into the object, right? And when you walk into it, the whole world, outside world disappears and you're in VR. That has we've been seeing really good like hardware built around that. Like Vario is a good company that does that. So I don't think there's going to be like one winner or loser. We're going to see both use cases and like their interaction as having a use case as well.
Right.
It's this misconception of like
a winner.
Yeah,
right.
There's a winner.
Yeah.
And like even with like Metaverse, right? Like it's just buzzwords. Like
there's
like there's a stack.
Yeah.
That's that. It's like an organism. It's going through evolution. There's many aspects. Like the internet is not just your computer.
Of course.
Right?
Yeah.
There's a network layer.
Yeah.
There's like a architecture layer. It's like CPU thing. There's like servers here, servers there. There's
all
like,
over the world.
It's this it's this living organism.
Yeah.
Same with
virtual reality.
Metaverse.
Metaverse. Yeah. Okay, let's go back to this idea of building from a VR first perspective. I think that's super interesting. What's the ideal product, like even if it's not feasible today technically, what do you think the one that will one day win out and that we'll all be using is it sort of natural lenses in the same way that we have eye lenses to replace glasses, or do you think it'll be some sort of glass hardware?
I think like from Rodin, what I learned is that was one of like the more like deeper problems of VR, AR, is the input mechanisms themselves need to be changed. Creating VR on a flat screen using a keyboard and a mouse, even in like a specific application like Unity for 3D, is just no. Like that's why we called it Rodin, right? You're sculpting. So
right.
Like, the natural thing is like you create VR in VR.
Yeah.
But even doing that with the current like controllers is still point and click.
Yeah.
Like, right. What I think is one of the like very fundamental parts that has to be rethought is input. Like even just going away from letters themselves, like creating a whole new language, like getting away from keyboards. So I think what's going to be something that we are all going to use is neural interfaces, neural-based inputs to augment gesture and to augment letters. Because think about it, like it's from thought to finger to writing to letter keyboard to creation. It's essentially like whether that typing becomes a story or it becomes like gets turned into a movie or a song, and then or if you're programming, like from thought to finger to creation is such a long process. Like and even like on mobile, it's even worse, right? Like it's gone from like 10 to 2.
Right. 10 fingers to 2 fingers.
10 fingers to 2. And in VR, it's even worse. Like it's like I'm clicking like letters, and it's so slow. It's so dumb. Like so what we need to solve first is create a new type of a new type of language that's not even letter based, not alphabet based. Like alphabets are slow because it's a sound, right? Like A is a sound. We all agreed upon that this is its sound.
Yeah.
And it means that. So even when you're forming a word, you're cramming that idea into pre-configured symbols.
Yeah.
Not living symbols, very static symbols. And you're trying to describe what your idea is in those symbols. Like letters or language, we could say like it's the first blockchain, right? Like it's agreed upon sounds, agreed upon letters. It's completely like on what we as humans agree.
Yeah.
Like, outside of us is bullshit.
Right.
It's super slow. Like you were talking with like a good friend like Vazgen, and brought up the example like, let's say I say the word strong. Okay, what does it mean to you?
Something that is an adjective to describe strength, right?
Okay. How do you see it?
It's manifested in either someone, I don't know, doing something that is physically demanding, such as lifting something very heavy, or being able to go through some very difficult process, difficult times.
Okay.
Yeah.
I see a rock.
You see a rock, okay.
Yeah. a red rock,
okay.
So now, look, same word. It took us a good minute.
Yeah, to agree on
what it actually we really mean. Already, like even if we're using like agreed upon like things, it's freaking slow.
Yeah.
So the way to solve that is like being able to read your neural data, right?
So you're talking about like your brain activity.
Yeah, and I think there's a middle stage between what like Elon Musk is doing. He has like Neuralink, where with Neuralink they actually install like electrodes into your brain, and that's called invasive and like wetware. So I think there's a step in between that, where creating new types of non-invasive hardware,
like kernel.
Kernel is a really good one.
Yeah.
But I think there's
Explain what kernel is for our listeners.
Kernel is just like, I think they like raised 100 million or something.
I think more, yeah.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
So it's a helmet you put on your head with a lot of electrodes. It's called EEG. It reads brainwave.
Yeah.
And then uses like its algorithms to clean up like brainwaves that are not needed, and then like try to get to like what you're thinking.
Yeah.
So, but it's like very like, it's for like, I think the headsets are like super expensive, right? Like $50K and above.
I'm not sure if they're even like, are they even available to consumers?
No.
Or,
No. I don't think headsets are the way, like headset based reading. I think there's like one easier, simpler step we can take is like using bracelets. Right now we're in that transitionary stage.
What would the bracelets do?
So with bracelets, we can read minimal neural data.
Okay.
So it's with bracelets. There's two types of like way of reading, like brain waves, right? One is like detecting waves, like alpha, beta waves. Yeah. Two is something called electromyography,
right? Where
it uses it reads the potential difference of like electrical signals of your muscles.
Yeah.
Do you remember the Myo band?
No.
It was like a band you could wear like on your bicep, and you could like when you move your fingers, it was detecting.
Okay.
Combining like EMG with EEG, like the wrist is like one of your most. I think there's like more nerve endings going to your wrist than anywhere else in your body.
Wow.
So it's a very flexible area. Like when I'm grabbing this cup, every time I'm grabbing it, there are different parameters, and my wrist is adapting to that in real time.
Right.
It's your creative force right here. With bracelets, we can read like very little minimal muscle movement if I'm moving this finger, but to the point where I don't even have to move it.
Mm-hmm.
Like I can just almost just think about it. It will catch it before I even do the movement. With that, we can catch your intention
Mm-hmm.
before you actually move it. Like, and it can even expand a little more. Like, let's say, if I want like two more fingers.
Yeah.
Like if I'm thinking two more fingers, my brain is already projecting that. My brain already created a neuron output with that image, and it's like projecting it to my hand.
I see.
So I can, with like clever algorithms, I can detect that there's a signal going here that I want two more fingers, and I can predict you want two more fingers.
So you could essentially read someone's mind, and I don't mean that in a joking way, but predict what that the output of that neural activity is, and then visualize it on the person.
Yeah, that's why like in VR it makes sense. Like
Right.
we don't even have to go there. We don't have to give you like extra limbs.
Right.
Just being able to
Whatever you're thinking of, visualizing it or something.
yeah, and not even like insane things.
Yeah.
Like just that's what I'm saying. Like a new alphabet needs
Yeah.
to be created, and not even not like full gesture based, because like moving your fingers in air is like dumb. Like just typing like this is dumb. It has to be something that you can wear all the time.
Yeah.
It looks good. It doesn't interfere with your daily life.
Yeah. It's
And-
not invasive to.
Yeah, and with it, you can create faster. And this is not just for VR, but AR also. If you've seen like a lot of AR glasses, it's just like with tap
Yeah.
or sound. It's dumb. Like it's so, like it pisses me off when I see it. Like, it's,
Is that just because the tech right now is super early, or are they just thinking about this the wrong way?
it's both.
Okay.
The thinking definitely, it's like it's not there. There's again, Facebook is working good on this.
Mhm.
Like there was a company called Control Labs. They were working on bracelets like that, and like Facebook bought them in 2019,
Specifically for VR applications?
specifically for VR. Yeah,
That's fascinating. So I didn't know there was a crossover between the neurotech space and the VR space. So you're saying that you think the building VR or mixed reality first approach is going to come with some of these advancements that are happening in neurotech to be able to, I don't even know how to like word this because the language for it just doesn't exist, right?
No.
Like, so ways to
it's magic. It's almost like
Yeah.
magic. It's almost like
ways to monitor your brain activity in order to be able to make you visualize things that you're thinking about.
yeah,
And
Yeah.
how far out is this? I know it's a crazy question to ask, but
something practical. 5 years.
and what's that practical thing?
Practical is maybe something that you don't carry with you all day, but you're sitting, like instead of using your mouse, you put this on your wrists and you use those.
Yeah.
But again, there's things missing here too. Like the reason I'm doing VR is now, like I found the reason is like because I want to communicate better.
Yeah.
Like the reason like why we're doing Nox Labs now is to build it to a point where I can make my own VR devices
Yeah.
that are built purely for making VR better, like its
Right.
own medium. There's no secondary objective. There's
Right.
no like we're not doing VR because we like social media on phone is dying. We want to like that's Facebook's direction, right?
Right.
They want to the next social interaction. They want to own that market. Our philosophy is we're building VR for VR.
Yeah.
So goal is like to get Nox Labs to a point where we can start making like our own innovative devices. And one of them is the most important one is going to be those bracelets. Like I've been concentrated on that since like 2017, like similar time as like Control Lab started.
Yeah.
That's like a very heavy passion of mine.
Yeah.
And I think what's missing even with these like neurotech companies like is they want you to be able to click while you think, like just think of this and click this while thinking about
Yeah.
it. I think we need to go deeper. We really need a new language, and that's this language like
Why do you think that's necessary?
to encapsulate your ideas faster. So it's like kind of creating like a magic spell.
Right.
Right? Like imagine like that word strong, right? Imagine I could encapsulate that word in an image of a rock, and then using my hands describe how that rock looks. give it a emotion, give it some kind of function, whether like that's a building block for a program, like call it like make it an NFT, right? Encapsulate some kind of like video content in there. So it becomes a living letter. That's my letter. And from this we can build building blocks. So it's like kind of like in Harry Potter how you make a spell. Like you have to use base magic like to make spells.
Right.
Like these great wizards made the spells and now is using this spell to build something else. So by reading neural data, we can say this is Najdeh's spell, which does this. So it's a new type of, it's not even an application. It's a new breed of living like alchemical symbols that do certain functions, but also pass information faster. Like where I didn't have to describe this whole strong rock to you.
Right.
By giving it to you, you could understand it way faster.
So some sort of language that captures meaning more than it captures a direct representation of something physical, something material.
So state, content, emotion, functionality. So this is where like NFTs come into play, where like I can tie that spell to Najdeh's neural output. So that becomes like yours. That spell, whoever uses it, is like you have ownership of it. And then we can go like a level deeper. Like now I'm researching like Carl Jung?
Yeah.
Like archetypes, right? Like going a little deeper in like what does mother look like, feel what at a neural level to humans. Because mother is like an archetype. It's a very basic thing in every human. So if we can go deep and map out the neural activity of a mother, then that's the actual real natural level letter, right? That is nature's way of showing mother.
Right.
Before we give these layers.
And that's uniformed across human beings.
Yeah. So we can get these archetype neural letters and build upon those a new alphabet. That's the real alphabet.
So like instead of alphabets representing these sounds that we then combine together to make words which represent things in our world,
go to the base
layer, which is as fundamental. So describing phenomenons, essentially using this new language to describe phenomenons as opposed to sounds, which then form words, which then represent things.
Yeah, because I think the better we can understand each other as humans, the more we will be more love will prosper.
Right.
Like because all of us have like an internal sun,
right?
And it loves to shine. It wants to be seen. Like I want to talk about my ideas. I want my dreams to come out, and I want people to like it. Like we're social creature like that. But some people are not good on camera. Some people are not great writers. Most people are not.
Right.
Like I'm horrible at like putting my ideas out. Besides like maybe talking about it. Now I've just learned about it. Right. So the better the tools are for letting our inner selves be shown, communicated out,
in a more accurate way. I guess.
More accurate. The more we will understand each other as humans. The more we understand, the less conflict we'll have.
Right.
Like I've realized most of these conflicts are not. Dude, they're at a very human level. Like it's just different different emotions, different perspectives of the world that's not being communicated.
Yeah.
And it's hard.
Yeah.
Like we're saying like no war, but dude, like two people even communicating is two different universes.
Yeah.
So that's the goal. That's why I'm doing VR now. That's not why I started doing it, but now I see that this is it needs to be done.
It's fascinating. Okay, so let's talk about how you're going to do it. So your company Nox Labs right now is a VR marketplace, and the way I understand that is you guys sell headsets online. Is there anything else you sell for the VR world? Do you do software?
Yes, so we now do we're the everything VR shop.
Okay.
Right? Like I wanted to just go making those bracelets, right?
Yeah.
That's my
yeah.
But what I realized is there's a lot of steps to doing that.
Yeah.
And what I'm good at right now, maybe it's not time for me yet to build those bracelets. Like it's still forming. Like after Rodin decided,
By the way, was Rodin a subsidiary of Knox Labs, or was it its own company?
it was a different kid.
Okay.
It was its own kid.
Okay.
So I couldn't raise the kid well.
Okay.
And I was not paying attention to the mother Knox Labs as well, so both suffered.
Got it. That's a good way to describe it.
Yeah. So, but a lot of learnings from there,
Yeah, I
right?
bet,
Like,
yeah.
it was like this whole bracelet thing, like this whole language thing was born from there too. We're like, dude, it's a deeper problem than JavaScript. Like, it's like much deeper.
Based on what you just explained over the last 20 minutes, that's undoubtedly true.
Yeah, so I came back to Knox Labs and like, hey, like I have this experience, like we have like a warehouse experience, this experience. Let's turn it into a marketplace where we help other VR sellers or manufacturers sell their items.
Yeah.
Because most of the like good VR brands now, like besides like Facebook and Magically, are outside of the US. Like 80% of the innovative VR hardware manufacturers are outside of the US.
Is it China mostly?
South Korea, Netherlands, Finland, some China. So, and they have a hard time. What we realize, like, it's not that they cannot sell to the U.S. market, is that they don't have a good representation. Like, you're not gonna go like now we sell like besides headsets like gloves, like treadmills, VR treadmills for like omnidirectional thing.
Right.
Like, you're not gonna go buy this off Amazon.
Yeah.
Because it's like a $6,000 item.
Right.
There's a lot of hand holding needed.
Yeah.
So now, now I feel like we have product market fit where I'm giving value to the brand, and I'm giving value to the consumer. The consumer doesn't have to go to like 7 different places to buy what they need, like an accessory for VR. Like they can buy it on some things, they can buy it on Amazon, and that's fine. Like just dumb accessories and stuff, or like a PC. But if you want like the complete package, like again, Knox is built for VR. Like here you come, it's only VR things. Like and you ask us a question, we're gonna tell you what you need. Like the other day, U.S. Space Force approached us.
Wow.
Right? They're like, we want this. We're like, no, you need this.
Yeah. So you have the expertise to actually advise people on what they need.
Yeah. So
whereas
like
if they go somewhere like Amazon, they can't have that.
No.
Yeah.
So a lot of authority now.
Right.
And like from like the brand side, like we're working with like the company called Vario. They're the Apple of VR.
Yeah.
They make like the best headsets. Like human eye resolution, like $10,000 headsets. And they want us to represent them at a like conference where like they wouldn't ask this of any other reseller because they feel like we're an extension of them.
Right.
So like they feel confident us like being like it's there to like talk about them.
Right.
So that's the value. Now we're not just like not a marketplace just reselling things.
Yeah.
But like we go really deep with them. So cardboards are still one line of the product, and then we sell like other products as well, accessories. And it's like the same model as Amazon Basics.
Yeah.
So Knox VR Essentials.
Right.
So whatever we can manufacture to be more affordable to the consumer.
Yeah.
And we look at data, what sells well.
Yeah.
We manufacture it on their Knox VR Essentials.
Right.
And then we'll get it to a point where we'll start making new innovative things. So that's the goal. Like.
So the goal is, so you guys have started as this the marketplace that sells VR products, and the goal is to be able to get to a point where you use that capital that you're accumulating, the money that you're making, to then develop your own products in-house, more innovative stuff.
Yeah. And going to software side as well. Like we did dabbled with it with like Knock Knock, right? But we want to get to a point where VR commerce is very interesting, right? So I want to take Knox Labs into VR. So in VR, you can open Knox Labs, try on this accessory, and then buy it, and we will physically send it. But things that make sense, not just like a handbag, okay? Like things that like you try on, like on your hand, and you think. So if this works, and we want Knox not just to be like its own application, and in like different metaverses that are popular. And get the ground ready for when it's time in like 2-3 years when VR commerce is going to start hitting the ground, where through Nox with like one click, any e-commerce store can go to VR, have a VR presence.
You'd be the platform as to which they would do that. Yeah.
So, and they would exist like in the Nox marketplace, in the popular metaverses with like a single click. So we're getting like ready to build that technology to fully like dive into that like into 2-3 years. Now is not the time 100%.
It's too early still.
Like I've done my fair share of like too early.
You're trying to avoid that.
Like, I know I can predict like few years into the future, but I know that when to not build.
That's a useful skill to have. Okay, and then Taron, is there any VR activity in Armenia that we should be aware of? Anything interesting happening?
There's a company, I forgot their name. They're using like VR for like a psychology in VR to do
like therapy sessions.
Oh, wow. And I think I've seen using like for rehab with soldiers.
Amazing.
It's not like there's only few companies VR I've seen. There's like Arlupa that does AR.
Right.
They're good friends. I haven't seen like much, but like it's picking up.
Yeah. Okay.
So I think it's that VR psychology one is really good.
Yeah. Earlier you said that you now know when it's too early, and it seems like you've been burned a couple times by starting too early. Is there any advice you can give to would-be founders or founders about how to identify when something is just too early in the space?
Yeah. Like talk to the like whoever you're selling to.
Yeah.
Like I've made that mistake a lot before. Is like you're behind the screen and you think you're selling to a screen, but that screen there's someone else in front of the other screen that's a human being.
Right.
Like just call and talk to your customer. Like I would just even before building anything, talk to your potential whoever your customer is going to be. Understand if this is a problem for them, because they're the ones going to be like. Don't be afraid. Like I was afraid to talk to like my customers. Like in Rodan, right? Like I didn't associate with the developer, so that was the thing. Like just if you talk to whoever the buyer is going to be, because unfortunately it's a buy sell world.
Yeah.
Right. It's a world.
Your technology can be super cool, but if someone's not going to buy it, someone's not going to use it.
Unfortunately, that's the world we're born into, and in order to like swim in the other direction, you have to master that resource.
Of course.
So
speak to your potential customers before you even start building.
You're selling to another human.
Right.
Like it's
Okay, Taron, and our last question, where do you hope that Nox Labs will be in 5 to 10 years?
Nox, I want it to be a place where like people come to work, where they're building things for VR. Like I want, like right now, like the best engineer is gonna go to Facebook because they're doing the best stuff. But again, what they're doing is tainted. It's tainted because they're a social media company. Their first thing is social media. They're not in their hearts. They're not doing this for VR. With Nox, like I want it from like company perspective to be that where if you want to go work at the top place where we're like you're doing like best VR things for VR is Nox.
Right.
So just like you go to SpaceX to build space things, not because you're freaking like Lockheed Martin and you want to make more money with your satellites, but because you want to build better space things. Go to Mars. Like you go to Tesla to build better cars, better AI, because that's like what it's doing. I want Nox to be that.
Yeah.
And from a product perspective, like a place you come to for all your VR things. Like if you want to buy it, if you want like something innovative, if you like you want software, you want to sell in VR, you want to raise money for your VR project. I want it to be the everything VR place, kind of like Amazon of VR. Like it doesn't have to be like, I hate that build a button philosophy, right? Like the people invest in companies that are doing one thing and one thing really good.
Right.
They're building a red button. That's the best red button in the world.
Right.
That gets installed in Tesla. That gets installed here. Starting with that, it's good to start with that, and that's why like we're concentrating on like marketplace now, doing that very well and then expanding. But I want Nox to be just everything VR.
Yeah.
It's not like, it's like Amazon, how like you go there to watch movies and shop. I want you to come here to build and buy the best like VR input devices and host your VR files here. Like raise money for your VR campaign here. I don't know what it will evolve into, but I know it has to be the place.
Okay, Taron, this is a super fast-moving space, so I hope in the future you'll come back again and give us more updates on what's going on in the metaverse world, I should say. And Taron, this was a super interesting conversation. Thank you so much for coming on.
John, thank you so much too.
Thank you.
Thanks for the deep questions.
Oh, my pleasure.
That's made it so interesting for me too.
I'm so happy to hear that.
That's the best part. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Taron John.
Thank you.